Welcome back to Six-Sided. Like, share, and subscribe. Arsenal humiliate Tottenham at White Hart Lane. Chelsea slip up against Burnley, courtesy of a Fofana red card. City keep that pressure upon the Gooners as well. Liverpool with a massive last-minute winner. United playing tonight, hoping to go 3 points clear of both Liverpool and Chelsea. So much to speak about on Six-Sided this evening. We've got a brilliant panel for you. Henry Wright is with us. He's calmed down his tears from earlier after his team have been dragged to the relegation battle. We've got Lou here with us today as well. Man like Louis, bigging up Chelsea. Marty is here. Very happy Gooner. Well, we've kind of got three Gooners on the show, really, but Marty's here representing Arsenal tonight. And me, of course, the host, Terry Flewers. Thank you all for tuning in. Gents, how are we all?
I'm all right, Henry, I'm all right.
Outside of football, I'm absolutely... Well, I've got a honeymoon in a few weeks. I'm enjoying life. Inside of football, it's just like, this is probably the worst I've ever felt. I mean, last year we finished 17th, but we were quite some distance off the relegation zone. This year, it's like everyone keeps saying to me, "Are you too big to go down?" And I see it. Well, hang on. Newcastle and Villa have both been relegated for the Premier League. Like, they're both big clubs. I'll be honest with you, mate. I feel I'm just numb to it now. It's just like, I just want the season to be over. Like, forget the last 16 Champions League games. We might as well just take a 3-0 forfeit now. You know, that is how bad it is. Like, it really is that bad. Like, you think, whenever, I know there was a huge meltdown when Arsenal drew to Wolves. Imagine that times 10, because that's how our fan base feels. Like, we are just getting shafted. And do you know what is even worse? We've done over $1 billion in 5 years and no one talks about it.
Well, yeah, you spent for around 30 to 40 million pounds more than Arsenal since Arteta arrived in North London. You've done a little bit more, but people forget about that with Spurs in Sir Alex's time. Spent on 20 million pound, only about 20 million pound less. Did I just cut out then? My
your Wi-Fi glitched.
My internet's playing up a little bit. The whole time that Fergie was at Tottenham, Man United, Tottenham only spent around 30 million pounds less than the great man did. Spurs kind of always go under the radar of being this like club that doesn't really spend, but they spend a fair amount. They're just shit. Just shit.
Yeah, it's the recruitment as well. Like, look at this season, for instance. This summer we did what, 60 million on Kudus, 60 million on Xavi Simons. The year before that we did 40 million on Gray, 60 million on Solanke. Like, when you look at our front line, we've done 60 million, 120 million on Kudus and Xavi, 220 million when you then include Richarlison and Solanke, and none of them are any good. Like, none of them, let's be honest, like, none of them, there's not like teams in the summer go, if we go down, go, right, I'd pinch him. Other than maybe Van de Ven Romero and a few of the youngsters, a lot of people wouldn't touch a lot of this squad.
Yeah. I mean, from the names you just mentioned, I think Archie Gray is the only player I look at and go, do you know what, fair play to him, because he's filled in so many positions and done. He's one of those like 6, 7 out of 10 players, and he's only 19, 20. So it's like, you know, it's one of.
Never ever do that again. By the way, that fucking.
What's that weird when I'm seeing people doing supermarkets where they go 6'2", 6'2",
and then he pours milk over him. Yeah,
does that mean anything? I don't know what these things are. I'm so old. I know 6'7" because my kids always go say it when I say it. They're very weird, my kids. Or maybe they're not. Maybe it's normal for kids to say it. I don't know. But anyway,
I know about 4'1". I know about 4'1".
Nice.
Louis, let me ask you, Lou. Like, what do you make of the idea that Tottenham could go down? Because they were humiliated yesterday. Absolutely. I want to put this into context. If you look at the first 10 games of the season, they were like third in the league. The last 18 games, they're second bottom, and the trajectory is getting worse. Do you think they could actually go down?
I mean, the too big to go down thing I don't think exists. I mean, we've spoken about Villa and Newcastle. I always think about that Leicester team that went down. That won the league like 2 or 3 years prior, and you just think the players that were in that team were, going for the Champions League 2 or 3 years before. The only reason the Spurs won't go down this season is because there's 3 worse teams. Just. I think Forest will go down just because, 4 managers in a season, I think, is just absolutely mental. I think off the back of that, West Ham will kind of just pick up because they've been doing it at the right time. And I just think Spurs will survive because they're worse. If they don't adjust something in any of their policies, and I think the biggest one is in their medical policy, because 2 seasons in a row where you basically had 2 full 11s out injured, or had a full 11 out injured, especially with such important players, I think there's something that's not right there. But I mean, Spurs' status as a top Premier League side is very much diminished, because I think at the minute it's a great business. They're well run as a business, but they are not run well as a football club, and that is what has been catching up to Spurs for such a long time now. And the last couple of years, it's bit on the arse.
I hear that. Martin, I want to ask you a question. Do you think Tottenham, fact or fiction, do you think Tottenham are too big to go down? Like relegation simply won't happen?
Do you know what? I do get that. But one thing I will say, if it's not this season and next season they don't change something, listen, last season they were knocking on the door. This season they're knocking on the door. And you see it with clubs. They sort of languish in those bottom places, and you can't keep doing that forever. So if they don't change something like this summer, let's say they stay up, and they don't change something this summer, like significantly, whether it's the ownership, is it the players? Look, they've bought some good players, and they do have. There's a problem. There is a problem at Tottenham Hotspur Football Club, and the thing is, like, they've got the stadium right. They've got fantastic food. All the outside, the pitch is amazing, and they've got NFL games, concerts, but the football is not right. And for me, if something drastic doesn't change, I think it is a matter of time before it is realistic. We've seen it before with big clubs. And, last season's finish, and then this season they've been through this is the 3rd manager this season. And Thomas Frank did a good job at Brentford, and then for some reason just couldn't get it together. Igor Tudor, if you look at his managerial track record, he's probably one of the worst guys to hire in this situation. For me, I'll be honest with you, Sean Dyche, perfect guy for this situation. Like, he probably and that sounds crazy, it sounds insane, and obviously Forest have just got rid of him, but this is a guy that will get you out of, they're in a relegation battle. I don't think they'll necessarily go down this season. Obviously, I'd love to see it for one season. I wouldn't want to miss out, and I've said this before, I wouldn't want to miss out on the North London derby. It is a fantastic game of football. I mean, yesterday's game,
it is for you lot.
No. Listen, also, we're going to miss out on a guaranteed 6 points every season. But jokes aside, right? Jokes aside, it is a game. As a neutral watching that game yesterday, it's got everything: goals, contentious decisions. It's end to end. There's everything: bite, steal. It's Premier League football, and I'd love to see Tottenham relegated, obviously, but I wouldn't want to miss out on the North London derby for, years.
What do you think, Henry? Obviously, you're going to get a lot of questions about it, Henry, due to being a Tottenham fan. But do you feel that you really could go down? Like, what is the feeling amongst Tottenham supporters?
Yeah, I think there's a strong possibility. We're looking at our fixtures, looking at the way we're playing. We haven't won a Premier League game since the 28th of December, which is a 1-0 win against Crystal Palace. And even then, they missed a few big chances. Since then, we've drawn a few games, and we've lost a hell of a lot. Since 2026, I think we're 9 games without a win now. We've got Fulham on Sunday, who are coming off the back of a 3-1 win against Sunderland. Harry Wilson's in good form. And then after that, you've really got 2 relegation scraps where we play Crystal Palace, who are only a few points ahead of us, but at this moment in time, I fancy them to get something against us. And then we play Nottingham Forest. Now, if we win those 2 games, we'll stay up. It's as simple as that. Because looking at Forest's run, looking at West Ham's run, but these teams around us are showing more fight than us. I don't know if you've seen the Igor Tudor, the video that's gone all over the socials when he's trying to get Van de Ven to move up the pitch. That's our captain for the day. Like, you're supposed to be you've done goal line clearances in the Europa League and won us silverware. You've represented your national team. You're a player that a lot of teams would look at and go, do you know what? Okay, he's one we could bring out of the club, but you're walking along. The manager's coming. No one can really, I don't think, shit on Tudor too much because he's walked in. Let's have it right. He's walked into a shit show. He's walked into the hierarchy that are sacking people left, right, and centre. We brought in Thomas Frank from Brentford. You lose a couple of games at Brentford, not being rude to Brentford, but no one really cares. You lose a couple of games at Spurs, it's all over Sky Sports News saying, is Thomas Frank the right man? And we had a good start. We had a good away record. We beat City. We got points against Brighton. We beat Leeds. Since then, though, like this season, we haven't been anywhere near the level. And I look at our game. We've got Liverpool away coming up. Let's be honest. Liverpool are going to score 2 or 3 against us. We've got Chelsea away. We've won there once in 27 years. So let me tell you right now, that's a loss. We've got Aston Villa away. Like we've got 5 of the bottom 7 teams to play in Wolves, Leeds, Brighton, Palace, and Forest. And our record against them this season, we drew with Wolves, we drew with Burnley, we lost to West Ham, we lost to Forest, we beat Leeds, we drew to Brighton, and we beat Palace. So, like, it doesn't give me huge confidence. What I will say is, though, Forest's fixtures are absolutely horrendous. I think Forest will go down. But, you 3 are right. The club have got to take a long look at themselves. I know they're trying to bring Dele Alli back at half-time to try and, push some good vibes around the stadium. I know there's a lot of links to Pochettino coming back. If you're Poch, let's be real. You're looking at this going, that's a lot of work. We need 10 to 12 signings. And looking at our track record with the state of the transfers, I don't know. I don't think we will go down. But if we lose to Fulham, panic stations. It is going to be a panic. That Palace game becomes a 6-point.
I hear you. And West Ham have got some tough games. But I sort of feel like the Premier League fans, us Premier League, we're owed something like this. And what I mean is, it's been so long since a juggernaut got relegated. I actually think this would be the biggest relegation since Man United in 1974. I think it's much bigger than West Ham when they went down, much bigger than Leeds, much bigger than Newcastle. There is a part of me, now I don't want Spurs fans to get upset, but I'm just talking in generals here. The one thing those relegations had was this sort of there was like a spectacle about them because nobody would have predicted those teams to go down when they did. And Spurs going down is so seismic. Spurs going down, you could argue, is gargantuan news. And I just would love, part of me would love to watch the carnage. Part of me would love to watch the fallout, the recovery, the reaction. Are those Spurs fans who consistently talk about their ownership not caring, who consistently talk about their ownership running them into the ground, will they all renew those season tickets, the most expensive season tickets?
That's why they're frozen.
In Europe. Well, but even though they're freezing them, but it's a bit like me getting home, whack the prices up to the most expensive in the world and then go, but now we're going to freeze them. They're still the most bloody expensive tickets in the world for what you get. But the fans do my nutting at Tottenham. And like, my dad's a Spurs fan, and I think I'll get this from him because my dad doesn't like Tottenham fans. First thing he texted me yesterday during the game, he went, why are those pricks in that ground chanting second again, ole, ole? He goes, we've come second once since 1967. And my dad's sitting there going, what are they doing? My dad's a Spurs fan. He's 70 years old his whole life. He's like, that's why he stopped going to games. He said, my dad said this to me about 15, 20 years ago. He went, you know what I hate about my club now? What's that? He goes, our fans think we're bigger and better than we are. He says, we like banter teams that are superior to us, but we don't just like, it's not a throwaway comment where you lost. He's like, because I'm in the pub with some of these blokes listening. They're actually talking like they're better than Man United or better than Liverpool or as big as Real Madrid. I mean, I can't be around them. Maybe that's why I view Tottenham the way I do, because the way my dad speaks about them. Does that make sense? But they're like, when you're there bantering Arsenal. Did you hear the stadium announcer before the game?
Yeah.
Arsenal are nervous. Arsenal not calm. We're ready to go and get them. You lost 4-1. There's something they've got to. There's something about the priorities. Do you know what they remind me of as a club? You know that deadbeat dad. You know these kids are not going to school. They've got holes in their shoes. The electric's not on. You know their education is dripping away. No food in the house. But their dad turns up with a PlayStation 5. Goes, there you go, son. I love you. It seems like their priorities are wrong. You know, their priorities are wrong. And listen, I'll be honest with you, I really want you to go down. It would be so funny to watch you all down there.
Imagine going from a North London derby to play in Millwall.
Oh.
And Millwall could come up, by the way.
Oh, it's beautiful. It'd be beautiful. It'd just be that stadium there. The fact that Levy'd gone, it weren't Levy's fault. Oh, there's so many beautiful things.
I think we'd stay in the Championship for a little while. I don't think we'd get an immediate bounce back.
Tough league to get out of.
Yeah, very tough.
Yeah. Imagine that as well, this 60,000 seater stadium. I've been at the Emirates. Listen, I've been at the Emirates 7 years ago, 8 years ago when Emery was in charge. Those Thursday night Europa Leagues when Arsenal was toxic and it was like there's 25,000, fans there, freezing cold Thursday night Europa League, terrible performances. And when there's 25,000 fans in a 60,000 seater stadium, it feels like it is empty. And imagine that.
Can I add something to this that I think it's a bit of a hot take, but genuinely just because of how Spurs is being run at the minute, I don't think you come straight back up in the first season just with how you're being run at the minute. Genuinely. And I think that should be something that Spurs fans should be worried about if Spurs go down. Because just the way everything is being run, and from a club perspective, what will happen is, look, Igor Tudor, again, we were saying how he's not, it's a weird appointment, right? They'll make another weird appointment. I think genuinely you were talking about Poch saying before my internet decided to, the hamsters decided to stop running. He basically would look at that and went, I'm not sure I'd come back. I genuinely think he might be the only one who would come back or would consider managing. It'd feel like a Frank Lampard-esque appointment at Chelsea where it's like he's just doing it for the love. But even then, it's like if he doesn't come in, you'll get some weird manager that no one's ever heard of. And I just think there's a serious case that Spurs, despite how big they are, right? Let's be honest. If they go down to the Championship, I don't think they come back up first time of trying.
So do you know what I think the weirdest thing, if I'm honest with you, about that Igor Tudor appointment? He's well renowned for playing three at the back, the 3-4-3. And listen, we all know the only time that's ever worked in the Premier League realistically was under Conte at Chelsea. And you look at Palace, Glasner, that's what he does. Look where they're at. Look at Manchester United with Amorim. Since that's been changed, look at Manchester United now. That system for me just doesn't work in the Premier League, and it's very weird to appoint a manager that plays that system and he's not necessarily defensively minded. And when you're at that end of the table, you do need to think about that. That appointment right there could be the writing on the wall.
Yeah, no, you could be absolutely right. Viewers, listen, we'd love to get your views, your opinions on this. If Spurs go down, expressions would be blockbuster, is what Wayne says here. Losing source. Since 2022, when they beat us 3-0 and they got Champions League football over us, only one team has gone in the right direction. We haven't lost to them since then either. And ironically, there was a very light push in the back in that game that led to a penalty. No one's talking about that today, but they were talking about it back then. I remember that game, we were actually all in the Football Terrace studio up in London, packed out. That was where Colleen, who's a gooner, she's living in Colombia now. Big up Colleen if you're watching. She was forced into having to wear a Spurs shirt that day by Chatty Patty. Speaking of Chatty Patty, he was back active in the group chat today, but I haven't seen him in months. But yeah, terrible direction. Terry and the gang, there needs to be a relegation in American sports, specifically in the NBA, because they need to be accountable when it comes to tanking. Also, Henry, if Spurs go down, you can watch Anthony Edwards, your G.
Yeah, I mean, look, Anthony Edwards is a fantastic player, but I'm not really a fan of the Timberwolves, to be fair. But yeah, listen, if we go down, I generally will have to start watching another sport. Because watching up, imagine fucking Charlton Athletic away. That's going to be...
like I said, what I'm going to do for all the Spurs content creators, the ones that are worried about having to go back to work, the Football Terrace will provide for 3 months for each one of them, if they accept the offer, 3 months premium LinkedIn membership to get your CV sorted so you can start applying for those jobs. Because, I mean, some of you are really bad content creators. I don't know where you're going to get a job. I mean, but there's something out there. But we'll give you 3 months. We'll cover 3 months premium LinkedIn so you can apply for those jobs, if that makes sense. We'll help you.
Terry,
we'll do like a football back to work scheme for the Spurs content creators. It'll be beautiful.
Terry, on a football terrace, you could have a new arm to, the Football Terrace. It'd be a championship roundup, or, you could have like the teams Millwall, Charlton, all of those guys, etc.
Yeah, a bit of Plymouth, a bit of Wrexham. Yeah,
all of them.
Wrexham will probably come up.
You could have like a new show on, like, I don't know, Wednesday night. It'd be championship roundup or championship hot takes with Terry on the Football Terrace. And, a few Tottenham fans in there. It'd be fantastic.
Oh, Marty, you're such a dick. I love it.
I'm just thinking of Terry here, mate.
I know, yeah, we could do it.
Okay.
I hear you, mate. That's a good idea. Maybe the owners,
Terry, but,
that's it. Maybe the Spurs owners know they're going down and Tudor is set for the championship. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't bring him in for the championship. Doesn't know the league. It's a very hard league to get out of the system. I think the reason they've gone for, I mean, I don't know why it was him specifically, but the reason the managers that they're looking at, the Zerbis and the Poches, have said no right now is because, they'll spin it all the spin they want. No top manager's taking the Spurs job into it. At least they know they're staying in the Premier League. And I think Tom Little came on here and said about Tottenham that De Zerbi going in now could relegate you, because there is a possibility that if you start playing his football from day one when you're not used to it, the amount of times you could give the ball away at the back. I mean, you gave a couple of the big chances yesterday through playing the ball out poorly at the back. A De Zerbi system is going to expose that massively. You could end up just losing games because of the system. So you guys and the new manager have got to time it right as well. But as I say, I also want to point out to all the Man United fans watching, did you see again yesterday why we were absolutely right to not invest £80 million of our money into Conor Gallagher? £80 million investment for an absolute shizer. And Man United, listen, I'm not a fan of Sir Jim. I want the guy out the club. I want the Glazers gone for years. I've been boycotting for 10 years. I don't give the club a penny of my money. I will not feed that habit at my club. I love my club too much to give the ownership money to hurt it. That's my view on it. Everyone who gives money to their owners, I'm not calling you out, just giving you my personal opinion. But thank God, I'll thank him for that. Thank you for not signing that twonk. Absolutely bang average. I know like Chelsea fans love him because he's one of their own, and I respect that. But he ain't moving no needle. Fuck me. He couldn't move. He couldn't fight his way out of a fucking wet paper bag in a footballing context. Do you know what I mean?
Conor Gallagher for us was literally he was a Pochettino dream because he was just energy in midfield, and he balanced it out nicely. He's not a needle.
Makes sense if we get Poch back, doesn't it?
But look at this comment though. Look at this comment though. Look at this comment. Hey, you bought Mount, Baldy. Well, one, I used to be bald, but then I redistributed my hair, so stop. Right. Secondly, and more importantly, I didn't want him, and I called it out, and I slammed it. So again, listen, I've got a few things here.
I'll take Mount over bloody Gallagher.
He's got a Mason Mount shirt.
I've got a couple of spare notebooks here. Dan, send me your address. I'll send you a notebook. I'll send you some pens, and you can work on your banter a little bit, my friend. Send me your address, and we'll get them in the post to you, my friend, because that's absolutely shocking. And I hope you didn't do that in front of your girlfriend, because she'll definitely... What am I talking about? Fucking no way you've got a girlfriend. Fuck me. Called Big Dan. Jesus Christ. More like a blow-up.
Profile picture is Terry.
Is it you?
No, that's not me.
Who's it?
That's Danny D. When you get 5 minutes later... I'll have a Google who Danny D is.
Is that okay? Okay.
I think he's got that as a profile picture. He's just
okay.
I don't like how you said that. Are you saying you should put on private browsing by any chance?
Yeah, I am. Yeah, make sure you use the VPN. Oh, we're not sponsored today by Nord.
I've got to turn on NordVPN and do a search. Spurs next 4 games before the break. Fulham, Palace, Forest, and Liverpool. They will survive if West Ham or Forest also fumble. As a United fan, 3-5-2 will not keep them up. I agree with you on that. Maybe sorry, already done that super chat there. We'll come back to the Arsenal one that has come in a little bit later in the show. I want to speak a little bit on Chelsea as well. And Lou, a bit of fact or fiction here for you. Fact or fiction? Chelsea have blown their chance of a top four finish. They'll struggle in the next 7 games and fall too far behind.
My heart says we're going to pick up points somewhere where we least expect it, which means that we might not. But realistically, dropping 4 points at home to Leeds and Burnley, and then 19 points from winning positions, 17 of those points being at home. I mean, poor. I can't see us being stronger contenders for the top 4. I think there's going to be some games where I look at it and I go, well, I hope that listen, if we can beat Arsenal, I mean, that'd be great for me, because if Spurs get relegated and Arsenal don't win the league, that's basically like winning a trophy for me anyway. So I'm a bit like, you take the rough with the smooth. However, realistically, we're not going to get points at the Emirates. I don't think we'll get points at Villa. And I think in terms of the people that we're playing around us, I think there's going to be some real issues. I can see us beating United, which might be the game which swings it for us. But that's because whenever we play at Stamford Bridge, we seem to be okay. It's when we go to Old Trafford that we just fall apart. But yeah, realistically, I can't just get the job done.
Between the 1st of March and the 18th of April is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah.
You've got United, City, Everton away, Newcastle at home, Wrexham in the FA Cup, which isn't I mean, they're playing well at the moment. And you, as you said, you've got Villa and Arsenal. I mean, at this moment in time, I don't think you'll get top 4. I mean, 5th, who knows?
Well, that's what I'm banking on. That's what I'm banking
top 4.
I think if the whole, what I don't like is the foregone conclusion from Premier League football fans where there's this automatic thought that England are going to get the 5 Champions League places. Realistically, it's feasible considering how we did in the Champions League league phase, and obviously how other teams are doing in Europe. But I mean, I don't like to think of it as a foregone conclusion. Chelsea, in terms of their points totals and how they've built the squad over the past year, there's not really been any needle movers. And what Chelsea needed at the end of last season, because it was the final day of the season where we beat Nottingham Forest to get Champions League football. So we needed a couple of needle movers. I think João Pedro has been fantastic. I think in terms of the back line, when Levi Cole went down injured and the coach was saying we need to bring in a centre-back to make up the difference. Again, 17 points at home from winning positions. We don't have the same problems that Chelsea had over the past 2 years are rearing their head again, and they're already talking about Liam Rosenior and him losing his job if Chelsea don't get Champions League. But they gave him a 5-year deal, and then they're talking about building for the future and all this sort of stuff. But the same sporting directors who ruined it and categorically ruined it for the past 2 or 3 seasons are proceeding to try and follow the same methodology. It's mental to me that, Chelsea have spent what they've spent. I mean, we've spoken about how much Spurs have spent since Arteta come in. I don't want to know how much we've spent to literally move backwards. It's completely illogical to me. And I think that Burnley game was a great example of not having the experience required in a team or in the dugout or in the sporting directorship to be able to build a squad and over 90 minutes as well, be able to see a game out with those older heads, which can just calm everything down. And it's going to happen again. There's going to be a multitude of games where this is going to happen. And then whether or not we'll turn up at, Arsenal, or if we'll beat Villa or we'll beat United. I mean, like I said, I think we'll be okay against United, but okay doesn't mean we'll win. It could be a draw.
Do you think? Sorry to interrupt. Obviously, there's a lot of talk about Palmer potentially leaving. I know Man United are linked, but not just him. I don't think Reece James would potentially go if you fell down the table a bit. But do you think players like Caicedo and Palmer, obviously you put all these players on such long-term deals, which is obviously financially more better for you short-term and in the long term. Do you think Caicedo and Palmer would be looking around if you don't get Champions League football? Because let's be honest, Palmer, Caicedo, and Reece James, we can all debate to the cows come over if they're world-class players or not, but they are the three that stand out in your team. I agree.
Let's get that out of the way straight up.
Like this, as soon as you say give Caicedo a compliment, there'll be an Arsenal fan say, "Oh, but Declan Rice is better." Well, we're not talking about Declan Rice, we're talking about Caicedo. Or if you give Palmer a compliment, Bruno Fernandes is better, whatever it may be. But those three, not necessarily Reece James, the other two. Do you think if you don't get in the Champions League, the links will grow, and then Palmer could? I mean, not to annoy you or anything, but I do think he will end up at United.
I don't think he will, because I just don't think United are going to pay out for him.
Do you not think he could force a move, though?
No, he's not forcing a move. Everything I've heard from inside the club from other people is this is not the case. He seems he's actually quite happy. Just because his mate,
you need to kick on, don't you? You need to be challenging.
Well, yeah, and if I'm being very honest, and this is probably going to be a very unpopular opinion, I don't think Cole Palmer right now goes to the World Cup. I don't think he's had a very good season. I think he's obviously been very intermittent. He's not been at the peak of his powers, and I think there are players that are ahead of him: Morgan Rogers, Jude Bellingham, Bukayo Saka. He will probably go in the squad, but is he someone that I'd look at and be like, he's going to come on all the time and make a difference? He started for England? No, not right now. But I mean, Caicedo is very happy at Chelsea. Reece James only has, I think, after this year, he's only got a year left on his deal. I think his contract ends in 2027. So Chelsea need to renew that contract pretty sharpish if they want to keep hold of him. And I think he'll stay. But there are players which I think will move on. I could see Enzo Fernandez going. I could just see him going to Real Madrid because they'll put him in centre field or whatever it is. Not because he's a Real Madrid. People say, "Oh, Real Madrid quality player." I think he's a good squad player at Real Madrid. I mean, these players are going to get tired of it. And there's already the rumblings that happened at the same time last year where apparently the sporting directors and the ownership are open to signing older players and all this sort of stuff. And I'm looking and going, well, we've heard this stuff over and over. Chelsea categorically are making the same mistakes they make every single year. And then they're just going to revert to type again. So, I mean, look, I think in terms of the top four race, yes, Chelsea are not in control of their own destiny, which is really annoying because if we'd had those 4 points, we would be. But it's very much a case of we're now looking at all the games around us. I'm hoping Everton can do us a favour.
Yeah,
you know, and it's stuff like that where it's like,
I hear you. And listen, I look, you could win quite a lot of these next games coming up. You could badly lose them. And I think that there is not sitting on a fence. It's the truth. When you speak to nearly every Chelsea fan that's on platforms, you'll get a bit of bravado before certain games. There's actually a lot of Chelsea fans this week, like they became Tottenham fans. By the way, who are your biggest rivals? Just very quickly. Who are?
Oh, did you see the clip that I did with Lee for midnight?
Yeah, because one thing I will say, we know Arsenal's is Spurs. We know United is Liverpool, then City. We know who Newcastle's are. Who are Chelsea's absolute number one? Where for me, I want to ask you, I want to word it this way, where if a Chelsea fan says that's not my number one rival, they're scorned by your fan base. Like, who is the team?
That genuinely there isn't one. You could do like 50 Chelsea fans. Some will say Arsenal, some will say Spurs, some will say West Ham.
I think you hate us more than Arsenal.
I mean, for me, the team I dislike the most is Spurs, but for me it's a very personal thing because my first ever Wembley, my first ever cup final, my first ever loss watching Chelsea was the 2008 League Cup final. So I'm sitting there going, for me, I hate Spurs for that.
Jonathan Woodgate all those years ago.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like
I hear that. Only reason it's come up a lot the last few days, where I've had a lot of like United-based fans from London and from around the world. So I don't get, Terry, why you'd rather Arsenal win the league over City. I'm like, Arsenal are a rival, but for me, because I'm a big believer, and when you support a football team or any sports team, I believe it's incumbent in you to adopt the traditions of that club.
Yeah.
So, for instance, when I started going to Man United away games, the first one I went to as an adult, a lad called he was 60 odd at this time. This is 25 years ago. Pulled me aside and went, why are you wearing a shirt? So I always wear shirts to games. He went, away games, nobody wears colours. So again, what did I do for every other away game I've ever been to since? I don't wear colours. Predominantly, you wear black. It's what Man United fans do. I believe in adopting the cultures and traditions. It's a bit like, imagine you go to an American football game and you know, but we're not going to tailgate. We're going to ban tailgate parties. It's like there are certain things that are like cultural within a sport or within a club. And so for me, that's why Liverpool first, City second. You know, Leeds United really and truly are my third biggest rival. They're just always so average. Then it's probably Arsenal, Chelsea along those lines. But I only wanted to ask because I wanted to. So if Chelsea don't really have one, I can understand why Chelsea fans are a bit confused because they'll just go with the wind in terms of maybe who's challenging them the most at this time. But that's fair. But the one thing I would say about Chelsea supporters in the problems that you've got is that none of them really want to show any chest. None of them really want to show chest in terms of, do you think you could win the next 2, 3, 4 games? And I don't think it's about sitting on the fence to avoid being wrong. I think it's because no one really knows what Chelsea are going to do. Nobody knows what Chelsea's turning up on any one match day. Nobody knows how good they're going to be from one sort of 15-minute block to another. They can be 2 or 3-0 up, and it's not a guarantee they're going to win the game. And I think that's due to 2 big reasons. One, a lack of overall quality. I think the squad, including by me, has been slightly overhyped. Some people extremely overhyped. And there is a lack of quality and there is a lack of experience with quality at the same time. Yes, Tosin is very old for a footballer, 27, 28, but he ain't good enough as an example. You know, Reece James is the only guy I think you've got in your team that I would say has got a vat of experience and is of a world-class level. Rob Sanchez has got a lot of experience, but I think he's just a good keeper. I think he's had a very good season, but I think overall, I think he's just a good keeper, and I think you need to improve on that. And I think that's where your problems lies. Your question earlier, someone sent in the answer. In the same time that Arteta has been at Arsenal, where he spent 930 million, you guys have spent 1.9 billion.
1.9 billion. Well, I think it's fair to say they have got a lot of money back, though, haven't they? They have
yes,
sold a lot of players.
The income has been there.
Don't give them that credit, Henry. Don't give them.
They have. I mean, one thing that goes under the radar, you are a very good selling club. I mean, look at us, for instance.
Yeah, but Henry, let me shut you down on that for a second. It's great if you're good at selling, but if it isn't ending with you becoming a better team and challenging for Premier Leagues, it's like a lingerie shop without a window. What's the point? Do you know what I mean? It's like. If you don't know, it's
going up to a prostitute and getting a car.
Terry, those are just sex shops.
Fucking hell, Henry! Jesus Christ! What? No comment.
But, it's like being a good selling club is great, but it's like 1.9 billion outlay, and we've got categorically worse. And they're saying, "Oh no," but it's like my favorite thing that I always hear. So. I still want to sit down with Daniel Finkelstein and lots of people within the Chelsea hierarchy because I want to hear from the horse's mouth some of the absolute tosh that gets pushed out there, which is like, oh well, Roman left the club in a state, and we had to fix that. And I'm like, well, if you had to do that, one should have said that in the first place. Should have come out and said, look, there's some issues here. We need to fix this. We need to do this. And then I think people would be on side. But no, they didn't say that. They just spent a load of money straight off the bat and gave massive wages to people who shouldn't get given massive wages. They've then instead gone, oh, well, do you know what we're going to make? We're going to sign young players and do this whole youth policy. But then by the time they're old enough, they'll be good enough. But we sell them before they get old enough to be good enough. And then we sign another young player and start the cycle again. We get a manager who isn't quite ready. And then he kind of eventually gets there, knows his value, knows his worth, but he gets told to do one and then walks out the door. And City and Real Madrid and other clubs sniffing around him. But apparently he wasn't good enough for us. It's like...
Can I ask you a question, Luke? Can I ask you a question on that, Luke?
Right. Yeah, go on.
Do you feel... I believe that fans help to control the destiny of their club, whether it's match-going fans, and I think online fans now play a part. Back in the day, 20 years ago, owners and even the media would typically judge fan mood by the people at the ground, either vox pops outside or the chanting or the cheering inside the stadium. We now have I think an even bigger barometer, which is social media. people can, and they will have, I think all of our clubs will have teams internally that go online to check what moods are like, what people are saying. I think that's quite obvious to anyone who's been around this for a while. Do you feel like there are some Chelsea fans who, yes, are very focused on Clear Lake and them improving, but do you feel like some Chelsea fans maybe have their priorities mixed up? And I'll give you an example. All I've seen for the past 2 to 3 weeks is a vat of Chelsea fans online. Nothing about their ownership, their situation, their lack of progression, the money spent, but everything about how, but my attack is so much better than Arsenal's. As an example, this hasn't been dropped yet, but this is coming out later on today. Arsenal are the leading club, the leading Premier League club across all of Europe's top 5 leagues for goals scored in all competitions. Bayern Munich are number 1 on 121 goals across all comps. Barcelona 103. Arsenal are third on 96 goals in all competitions. City are third on 95 goals. Chelsea are in the top 10, but sit on 74 goals. And sometimes I feel, and I'm just using this as an example around energy being pushed in the right place. I had to go at United fans last month because we were arguing over whether or not we should invest money into Conor Gallagher. And I'm saying that's really, for me, like a no, it's a waste of money. Focus on the real things, like setting a high standard for top quality players to come in. And I was getting called an Ineos simp. And I'm like, why? For demanding they buy better than Conor Gallagher. I'm still confused by that. It's kind of weird. But like Arsenal have scored 24 more goals than you. And I sometimes see some Chelsea fans more interested in point scoring against Arsenal, saying my attack is better than your attack, than maybe putting energy towards their own club to fix up and improve. Or maybe I'm well off here, but sometimes there's always room for bantering rivals, always. But sometimes I feel some of these guys have got big platforms, big voices. They're on huge podcasts. They've got a voice at the ground, and yet they're more interested in I wouldn't, my guy's better than your guy, rather than actually Clear Lake sporting directors. Let's fix up here and get Chelsea back to where you do with the amount of money you guys spend to watch and the amount of money your club spends. Yeah, you should be doing better than you are.
Absolutely. But Terry, that's everything you've just said is why I stopped for such a long time, because people spend too much time trying to point score. And all due respect to you, Marty, trying to be too much like AFTV and Arsenal fans who are just, quite frankly, some of them quite fucking embarrassing. Everything they see what works on the internet and they follow it through. It's very much a case of where I very much look at it and I go, well, guys, let's have a serious conversation here about this. No, but this happened. I'm like, lads, like, it's not important. There's some things here we need to talk about. Like, aesthetically, right? Probably. I mean, that's how I look at it, because that's a stat that I didn't know until you said it. I'm like, I would have thought maybe we were in and amongst it, but that's because aesthetically, I think our attack looks better than Arsenal, and I enjoy, I don't know, the way it just, I think maybe looks more fluid, which is why people think they've scored more goals rather than quite rigid and set pieces and, whatever it is. But, I mean, this is the problem where it's like the whole point scoring and tribalism has its place. But I mean, you look at that Chelsea squad, and when people are saying, the whole combined 11s thing that people do, I don't think very many Chelsea players get into a combined 11 of many teams.
Right. Do you know my take on this Chelsea side, right? And I'll be honest with you, and this is I think a very balanced opinion. For me personally, I think Chelsea have a very good team and squad. There's 3 things they're missing, and that's 1, a top quality goalkeeper. I'm talking like a Donnarumma, a David Raya, and Alisson. Listen, Sanchez has always got a mistake in him. Listen, goalkeepers make mistakes, but for me, Sanchez is more error prone than others. He's just an accident waiting to happen. He's definitely not a goalkeeper that I would want at my club. And secondly, 2 top quality centre backs. Chelsea are used to the likes of Petr Cech, John Terry, that sort of quality of player. I generally believe if you had those 3 players in situ, Chelsea would be a genuine threat. They would be right up there. The way sometimes you throw games or your inconsistency is, for me, based purely on that. You've got a great front line, you've got a great midfield. If I'm honest with you, listen, you've got Fernandes, Palmer, Caicedo. you've got attacking threat, and don't forget we've played you a few times this season, and I've looked at Chelsea and been like, look, listen, jokes aside, and banter and all that, I've looked at you guys and been like, listen, you're a good outfit. You're just missing that. That's it. You just that always that fear that you're just going to concede, or like what happened against Burnley.
I think that the problem is Chelsea also it's footballing basics. So how the club's running it is literally that it's what I think I've used this analogy before on here. It's the Americans have come into a French pen company, the best-selling pen in France, right? And they're saying this is how we do things in the United States when we sell DVDs. So we're going to do the same with pens in France. I'm like, it doesn't work like that. It's like it's very stereotypical. Ben Barley specifically, this is by the way, and how he's managing it. Very stereotypical, big-balled American. Oh, we're the best in the world. We do this, and it's as simple as that.
Do you know what? I get that.
It's very Trumpy how our club's being run at the minute.
I get that, and that's a very valid point. But like the Cronkies have essentially done that with Arsenal, right? They NFL, they have a host of American sides, and they're like, we've got this system, we've got this, blueprint for sports teams, and that's what they've done with Arsenal.
No, but then they've adapted it. They actually looked at it, and because they started doing it like that. But then they've actually listened to their sporting directors who actually know what they're talking about, and their coaches who know what they're talking about, and gone, well, okay, we've got this, but we'll adapt it slightly. Whereas what's happening here is they're going, fuck you, we don't care. The medical team has a right to say everything to do this. This person has the right to say to do this all the time. This person does this. It's quite telling for me with Chelsea currently. Under Roman Abramovich, nobody chose to leave. Everyone was sacked. People are choosing to leave. Like whether that be coaches in the men's team, the women's team. There's a guy called Paul Green who basically built the entire. He's basically the blueprint for the WSL and women's football. That he did everything right, and he left because these two idiots that are sporting directors are saying we need to do what we're doing with the men's team with the women's team, and apparently the women's team, for example, wasn't that successful despite the fact they were the Champions League finalists last year, and I think they won the league undefeated or something. I don't watch enough women's football to comment on that, but there's stuff there. But they're saying, oh, it's not good enough. Things aren't being run properly, and these guys are trying to say that they do run things properly when they've actually spent 1.9 billion, and Chelsea have not improved.
I mean,
are you concerned about United? Like with and I wanted to ask you on this in a minute, Terry, but with United doing better under Carrick and the fact they haven't got European football, obviously you've spent a fucking hell of a lot of money, right? And whether you're better or not, we can debate that. I mean, I agree with you. I don't think you personally are, and some of the signings you brought in. But is anyone worried about what United could actually go on to do, looking at how much money they I think they're the only club in the league that generate more than we do on a match day, and how big of a size club they are. Like if they get into the top four and recruit players well,
just really funny. Like we've got
a lot, and Chelsea may be looking going, it's another team we've got to compete with now.
We got a lot of stick for dropping below like 3 or 4 teams in terms of the revenue, and it's not nice to see because we're always on number one. But it was like a 5 million behind this team and 10 million behind this team, and that's without European football and coming 15th. But yeah, it was only a couple of million behind everybody. And that's why when people go, oh, United are just finished and broke, I do laugh because you're just being scared. That's where you are being scaremongered by the media and by negative Man United fans. It would take another 20 years of us finishing between 10th and 15th to be completely and utterly finished with too big an institute, with too big a club. And yeah, look, listen, we've got to pounce. Man United have got to tonight, and it starts tonight. I'm not going to write Everton up. I think we will. I'm going to go with 2-1 Man United. I think we've got a good chance, but I'm not writing Everton off because they're a decent team. They're a decent side, and do you know what? They've had quite a few games at their new stadium this year where they've looked good and not quite got over the line, or they've lost it. And at some point, they're going to give a big team a bit of a beat in there, and I just hope it isn't Manchester United. They're playing a few other big teams there soon, but I'm confident we can get the win if we start the game with Šeško. But I look at the next 2 games for us. Away at Everton, then we're home against Crystal Palace. Chelsea are playing Arsenal away. And there's an opportunity for us here to tonight to go 3 points behind Villa. They're on a bit of a rocky run. and a chance over the next 2 games, because I do think Arsenal will beat Chelsea as of today. Maybe my mind changes in the week, but right now I think Arsenal nick that game. We've got a chance to go 6 points clear of Chelsea. We've got a chance to maintain a 3-point gap over Liverpool. But even more importantly, we've got an opportunity over the next 2 games to go 8+ points over the teams below 6th, which means we're very, not done, but we're moving into the realms of being very close to securing some type of European football, which I think is important for us. From a 1, you want to be able to win these trophies. 2, it's a revenue element, back to 2 matches a week. There's revenue in there, sponsorships, etc. Hopefully it's the Champions League with the money that's in that is key for us. But we've got a great chance here playing 1 game a week. And I'm not getting carried away moving into next season, because next season, if we're back in Europe, it's a different realm. We need a bigger squad, a better squad. I'm not sold on. I love what Carrick's done. I love the man. I'm not sold on it yet, though. We made a few mistakes against West Ham. I want to test that a little more. But in terms of this season, if we're isolating it to this campaign, Chelsea and Liverpool and Villa have massive runs in the next 6 to 7, 8 Premier League games, coupled with
dance again.
Yeah, coupled with Champions League games, FA Cup games. We've got 1 game a week in that period, and it will be extremely frustrating if these players can't muster the energy and the effort to put the performances together. We've gone away from the 3 at the back. We are playing better football. We have got some very good players in Bruno Fernandes, in Bumo, Cunha, Šeško, Kobe Mainu back in the fold. We must capitalize. And, often expectations within a season change, and that's acceptable. And now there is an expectation on us to finish in a Champions League position. I don't think that expectation was there 4 or 5 months ago, but nobody expected Chelsea or Liverpool to be where they are at the moment. We all thought you'd be better. I think everybody assumed Newcastle would have a better season than they're having. But I'm not taking it away from United. Some United fans have done this whole gimmick of, well, we're only in 4th place because other teams have fallen off. That's only half true. We still had to win the games. If we didn't win our games, we'd have made, if we had the same win ratio as last year, we'd be 15th again. So we've still had to win football matches and done it. But I'm always a quietly confident person. I rarely absolutely write teams off and give it the big one. And I don't feel like doing that. I feel like we'd be tempting the football gods. But win tonight, and what that really does do if we win tonight, it puts a lot more pressure on the Chelseas and Liverpools going into next week's games, because we've got Palace at home, which I really do think will win. They're not very good at the moment. And they've got a European match in the build-up to that. So from my point of view and perspective, they'll have a weakened team because of that. Win tonight, beat Palace, and then I'm looking at over the Chelsea and Liverpool. I think we can create a nice little gap.
For me, like you said, Terry, and that's the example of the Chelsea situation. It's just personally small tweaks. So Amorim with Manchester United playing the 3-4-3. Carrick, all he's done, he hasn't bought any players or anything. All he's done is he's changed the system. Everyone, it's clear to see. 4 at the back. You're playing Luke Shaw as a left-sided centre-back, but play him as part of a back 4. Play, the 4-2-3-1. Like that, man. That's all Carrick's really done. Okay, he's a bit of impetus. He's just changed the system, and Manchester United are flying now. They've got good players. They've got a good squad. But if you set them up incorrectly in this Premier League, they will get beaten, and that's the difference. It's as simple as that. Sometimes it's not like this big master stroke. It's working with what you've got and just changing it around a bit.
No, I agree, Martin. I think, I still think United have got a squad that I'd rate somewhere between average and good. Okay, some people might good. Some might say good to very good. I still go with, and when I'm judging average, I'm judging a squad that could cope with 2 games a week. A team that's got to cope with 1 game a week is probably in that good to very good category, because you don't have to rotate as much. But as much as I still think that massive squad improvements are needed, when Amorim was under pressure, a lot of people said, Terry, but you said the squad ain't very good. How can you judge Amorim?
Which plays the wrong system.
Well, exactly. I still think it's a good enough squad to win more than 1 game, 30% of your matches, one in 3 essentially.
Listen, you beat Arsenal. You beat Arsenal convincingly. Like you were fantastic, right? You lost drew with West Ham. West Ham, I watched them the other night. West Ham they're now fighting for their lives, and they're actually a good team. But for some reason, they have not got it together this season, and they've got some good players. And the Manchester United thing, it was never, I think, a rocket science or, open, brain surgery. And it was just quite straightforward. This is how you play. This is what you've got to do. Play the players in the right, positions and system, and they will go and perform. End of. And that's exactly what they're doing now. And they are a good team. Albeit, a game a week, etc. I understand all that. But I think they are. I've seen them. I've seen them beat Arsenal.
I'd argue as well. I think I look at Rossini and I look at Carrick, right? There's not an over-sciencing. It's what does my head in is when you look at all the Twitter tacticos thinking, how they talk about all the half spaces and all this sort of stuff, right? What Rossini and Carrick have just done, and I think the Arsenal United game is a great example of it.
Mm.
All Carrick was saying there was, like I said, fullbacks are fullbacks, centre-backs are centre-backs, wingers are wingers, right? Get the ball forward, drive into the space, do what you need to do. Because
score more than you concede.
It's stuff like that. There's obviously tactics and discussions that are being had, but there's not this over-sciencing of for example, we had Maresca, the one thing I always hated. Oh, we're going to invert Gusto into midfield. So we've got this shape and do this and the three at the back will do this, and then our goalkeeper plays centre forward. It's like, why? Why are we doing that? It's like, just keep it simple, get the job done, and that's the most important thing. You get over the line, it's stuff like that where, look, I think in Chelsea's case, the United team's really good. I agree with what's being said. I think United will get over the line because what Carrick's done is he's not been wedded to a philosophy and a system and how he does things. He's just gone, I need to win games. These are the players I have. This is the shape. This is what we do. Rossini is trying to do something similar with Chelsea, but unfortunately, because he's got Tweedledee and Tweedledum and the sporting director trying to tell him how to do things, despite that they've never coached in their lives, he's now having to deal with the politics of that and the medical team and this and that. Whereas United, they've gone, right, Michael, crack on, mate. It's just like he's just gone, yeah, all right, sweet. This is how it is at United. This is how we do things. This is how it works.
I even think if he has a strong end to the season with United, that they could offer him the job in the summer.
He should have it if he gets it. If that's the case, in my opinion, I don't know who else takes it. I mean, Terry.
I think Villa fall out the top 4 or 5. I think the run of games they've got is going to be difficult, and like Rodgers and Watkins have fallen off, and I think United could finish 3rd. And if you said to a United fan at the beginning, say, okay, going out to Grimsby isn't exactly great in the League Cup, but if you said you'd finish 3rd, I think 99.9% of United fans would bite your hand off that. I know the whole standards FC must be like United must win trophies and whatnot, but surely if he gets 3rd, Terry, United go.
Yeah, no, look, listen, I think he should be in with a chance of doing it, but there's loads you have to weigh up, because there's one thing about being a good coach when you're putting an arm around everybody's shoulder and saying, come on, guys, I'm going to galvanize you. How does that relationship change in the summer where it's like these 5 players are going, these new guys are coming in? Equally, some people are really good coaches, 1 game a week. Brendan Rodgers, give him 2 games a week, different manager. So far, we're seeing it with Eddie Howe at Newcastle. When he's got to do 2 games a week, maybe it's because the squad ain't deep enough, but maybe it's because it's a different thing. To coaching and managing isn't the same thing for me. And there's a comment that came through saying, if you listen to ex-players, most talk about the fact that Fergie didn't really have tactics. It was about motivation. That's because Fergie was the manager. He had head coaches that did the tactics. So this is also where, when the Pep Fergie comparisons happen, I'm at a point where, listen, I never disrespect Pep. I think he's amazing, but they did different jobs. Pep could not do what Fergie did. He couldn't run a football club. He couldn't run every facet of a football club. Wenger, Cloughy, Paisley, Shankly, Nicholson. These guys run football clubs. It's a very different role to the modern day. Managers aren't managers anymore. They're essentially head coaches. And I saw Gus Poyet was talking about it, how he doesn't like the idea that a sporting... Well, I agree and I disagree with what... Have you guys all seen Gus Poyet's interview?
I love that interview. I it was great.
He's right. So I agree with part and disagree with others. Sporting director, I've been saying for a while now, there is no manager that's winning trophies without a good sporting director. However, you need them, and I think they're just as important. Liverpool have gone backwards this year. Part of it's on Slot. I think one of the biggest issues is Hughes and Richards and Hughes allowed the system to be changed that had been working for all those years. That, for me, is a bigger mistake than the guy that actually implemented the system. It's allowing it to happen in the, you know what I mean? If you turn around to your kids and go, right, I'm going to let you throw a party and no adults will be here, your kids might over-invite and your house gets smashed up and they're accountable. But you're the idiot for letting it happen, right? But where Gus Poyet was correct is the sporting directors don't face the scrutiny in the media. They don't come out and speak to anybody. They kind of just get away with it when it goes wrong. And I think something's got to change in that regard. But look, we could end up with multiple managers. But equally, some of the big guys might not want United right now. Like, is Luis Enrique really going to leave this PSG team and squad to help us rebuild over the next 2 years, 3 years?
Terry, you say that about media stuff. And do you know, I watched Michael Carrick's media interview, obviously, about that incident with Ratcliffe. Personally, I think he handled it really well, very professionally. What I like about Michael Carrick, he knows Manchester United. You said about what happens when it's 2 games a week. Listen, Michael Carrick knows about 2 games a week because he played Manchester United for years, having that amount of pressure. For me, personally, I think he's the perfect guy for the job. Like, he's come in, done what he's needed to do. The job is pretty, I say, straightforward. It's not. It's, managing one of the biggest clubs in the world. But he holds himself very well. He speaks very well. He is doing the business on the pitch to the point your man's nearly had his hair cut. They're 4 wins on a bounce. That was never looking like it. That was like, mate, this geezer, we're still going to be like this in 10 years. Like, is there, personally, I think there's a bit of PTSD with the Solskjaer appointment. For me, Carrick is completely different from Solskjaer. Solskjaer, listen, good player, won it, but he's not a leader. He's not that solid character. No disrespect to him. I don't say that. For me, Michael Carrick, it reminds me a lot, if I'm honest with you, of Arteta.
I was literally about to make that comparison.
He's like that midfield role. He's a solid guy. He's very professional. He holds himself very well. He clearly has the respect from the players. He knows the club back to front. He's been there for years. He's been at a variety of, Premier League. He's won it all. He's, seen it, got the T-shirt, the lot. And do you know what? He is doing a fantastic job right here, right now. You can't, Terry, as a Manchester United / Arsenal fan, right? You must say that, where you're at now. Would you ever have thought that you would be here right now?
I look, a lot of what you said I agree with. I would love Carrick to be the guy, because for me,
I think he is.
one of your own legends becoming your manager and hopefully taking you back to the promised land. Yeah. I'm a romantic when it comes to football. Now, I won't make a decision based on romance that will hurt my club. If he isn't a good enough manager, see you later. If a player's past his best, see you later, because we've got to win. But if you could ask me to wave a magic wand and go, who do you want your manager to be? It's someone who played for us that's already a legend. Who do you want your best striker to be? Someone from the academy. I would love a team. If I could fast forward 3 years and we've got a team that can win it, could win it all. I'd love the core to be from our academy. I'd love it, because for me, that's one part that made me fall in love with Man United as a kid, learning about the Busby Babes. And it's this very sad and tragic story, but it was the beauty of it. It was this, and United fans that don't know any of this stuff, please read it. You're even though you love the club already, your mind will change. Learning that we had a 50,000 strong London supporters club in the 50s, based on this brand of football with all these young budding players that were cultivated from around the country and taken into Man United. And we were playing a brand of football nobody had seen. And we have a song that speaks about, get yourself to that football ground, when we're playing, see football, talk by Matt Busby. And the song is very much about, I'm not going to sing it because I'm an awful singer, it's from the 50s, but we still sing it now because it's about, you're going to see something you've never seen before. And young kids were watching it in London, in the north, in the east, and going, I want to support that team. So when people go, United only started growing like a fan base when Sky started and they started winning the Premier League, you're morons. You don't understand the football club. We did it because of how we built this team through youth and exuberance and flamboyant, fast-paced football. When I heard Jamie Carragher the other day go on about how your identity only exists because of Sir Alex, firstly, every club that has the identity that he then spoke on only stem from one manager, stem from a manager, which is why can't United have one? But it started with Busby. And listening to the mainstream media lie and butcher that segment hurt my soul. And it's why I push so hard as best I can. And sometimes I get it wrong as well because I'm a human, for the truth. And if I see a narrative being pushed by the media that's completely and utterly false, for instance, the nonsense about not false or misrepresented, because it was only 4 weeks ago the media put out an article saying Arsenal ranked third bottom in the league for a percentage of goals scored from open play. But it was fugazi because the percentage was quite low, but the total amount was massive. So it doesn't really, it's a bit like if they were 100 goals scored in the league, but they also scored 100 from set pieces, they'd have been ranked bottom for the ratio level. But yet, why would that have been relevant if you scored 200 goals? And I give an extreme example to prove the point. And I like the truth about these things, but I'd love it to be Carrick. But there's a long way to go on that yet. And we start with tonight. I want to go to some comments here before we move forward. Terry, always the voice of reason. Come on, United. Thank you, bro. I appreciate that. And look, I'm not right about everything. I believe in what I say. Otherwise, have you guys ever had someone say that to you on socials? You always think your opinions are right. And I'm always like, yeah, that's why I say them. It's a weird. Imagine giving an opinion you don't think is right. It'd be weird, right? Harold here says maybe it's me because I'm foreign, but I disagree on City. To me, Arsenal is a much bigger rival. I want Arsenal to win this season, but that's because of Odegaard. I don't care about City, not one bit. Listen, mate, individually, that's your personal sovereignty. You're allowed to think that way. I just view it differently. And Man United, if I'm going to list our rivals in order, it's Liverpool, City, Leeds, Arsenal, Chelsea, Newcastle, Blackburn, Bolton, Spurs. That's kind of the order I'd go in. And some of those are geographical, some of those are historical, some of those are based on rivalries. Liverpool's is a bit of football, and it's more to do with the cities fighting one another. That rivalry didn't actually start until the 60s, funnily enough, when Manchester started taking docking work away from Liverpool. It had nothing to do with football to begin with. But if people don't want to follow the traditions, that's up to you. I also look at it this way: like Pep winning more trophies, the media are going to try and take Fergie's crowns away, and that's crowns from my football club, and I will always fight for that because the media are scumbags on that stuff. This here says, please stop using Roman as a benchmark. It's unrealistic with today's transparency standards. Rebuilding from that mess hasn't been appreciated.
Oh, so this is someone who just doesn't understand at all what I'm talking about. That's fine. It's okay. So it's like for Rome. I'll use Roman as a benchmark because he's the best football owner that the world has ever seen. Sorry, and also, you know, if you want to talk about the rebuilding process, and there has been no transparency. It's just been a load of PR bullshit because they've hired a rubbish agency. They should have hired me. I'd actually tell them what to do. It'd be great.
So do you ever feel like that? Having worked on social media for years, I have been accused of it. But sometimes I do think, oh, look, come to me, Man United. I'll run your PR. Trust me, it'll go down so much better coming from an actual Man United fan who understands social media. Sometimes I think they're so, you know what it is? I think they hire all the, you know, these PhDs, these middle class. I know you're a little bit middle class, Lou, but sorry, these middle class sons of bitches. Look at that bookshelf. But these middle class sons of bitches that don't understand football to go in and do their PR, and I just think, I mean, I wouldn't actually want to do the job, but I know I would do a better job. Marty. A massive, massive result for you yesterday. You humiliated Tottenham and you sent a really big message to Manchester City. How important was that response from you yesterday? And what do you think it does for the rest of your season?
Mate, do you know what? After that result against Wolves, and do you know what? It's funny. After that, I understand you're not going to win every game of football. And it was disappointing, and there was nothing other than realistically a win yesterday that was going to suffice, because if it was a draw or we lost, the Arsenal fan base would have gone into absolute meltdown, which I understand to a point, but I've seen title races, and like I said, they're not always a foregone conclusion. Going to Tottenham and beating them 4-1 again, you know, earlier on in the season, they came to our place and we done them 4-1. It was just that result that galvanizes the fan base. Listen, it's a North London derby. Like I've said, it's one of the biggest games of the season just because of the occasion, the rivalry, what it means. If you're a neutral watching that game, it always delivers. It's electric. And if you've ever been to one, the atmosphere is absolutely phenomenal. It's just, that's when you feel stadiums breathing and being alive. And then to win it like that, listen, contentious decision, you know, I'll bring up that disallowed goal. Yeah, listen, if I was a Tottenham fan, I would feel that that was a harsh decision. But if you put two hands on a player in a penalty area in that situation, you're leaving yourself open for it to be discussed. Do I believe it should have been disallowed? Look, I'll be honest with you. When I watched it, I thought it was a goal. I watched the replay, you slow it down.
You know the thing that gets me? Sorry to interrupt. Is Gary Neville told? Well, Gary Neville said in Sky Sports commentary that Romero has to be stronger, and Ekitike pushed the back of him to win the header. Now, granted, I think they are. You can't say one's a foul and one's not a foul.
Yeah, of course.
You either go over there together. Like, at the end of the day, there's a push on Gabriel. Does he act theatrically? Of course he does. I mean, maybe it's because I've got a different opinion. I don't think it should be. I think it should have been given. That being said, even if we got that goal, I think you'd have won the game anyway because you're Missionary FC. You were far on top. You were fucking all over us.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that for a start, I think by the sound of things, we all agree that goal should have stood. Gabriel, I mean, Peter Banks, yesterday, I mean, he'd have fallen for 2 or 3 Nigerian scams, Peter Banks. Like, the Gabriel was just absolutely just like the Nigerian print scams would be all over him because what Gabriel was doing was absolutely diabolical.
You know, I get it.
I'm not just saying that's the reason why we lost the game, by the way.
No, but the thing is, if that second goal had gone in, the way you equalise so quickly, and if you'd got a second, I'm not saying you'd have won it, but I felt the game would have swung a different way. But it's almost like as soon as that second goal was disallowed, it was like a sucker punch.
I get that. Do you know what? For me, like, obviously when you watch it again, it's you put two hands on a player like that in a penalty area. I've seen them given. I've seen them not given. Do I think it was soft? Yeah, I'll be honest. Yeah, I do. And I understand that, you know, the pendulum swings in the game and all that, like you said, sucker punch. But personally, if I'm honest with you, we pumped them all game. That was a very, very good performance I saw from Arsenal yesterday. You know, in the first half, we were unlucky to not be 3-0 up. Declan Rice makes that mistake. Listen, Declan Rice, and I'm not just saying, one of the best midfielders in the world, like being biased. Listen, let's be honest. Declan Rice is probably one of the best. I believe he walks into pretty much any team on the planet, and it is very uncharacteristic of him to make a mistake of that. Also, do I think Raya should have done better? Yeah, you watch that from behind. He moves his leg back. You know, that's a classic sort of De Gea save where he'd put his leg out and he'd save it. I think Raya should have done better with that. And when you're playing, and I don't mean this disrespectfully to Tottenham, but when you're playing higher level opposition, if you make mistakes like that, you will get punished. We got punished, and it's 1-1. I think Gyökeres was unlucky to score in the first half, and we were all over them. We were, for the majority of the game, we had the beating of Tottenham. And at the end of it, it wasn't close, like we won it 2-1 or 3-2. It was 4-1. We pumped them. And I think any Tottenham fan will agree, or any maybe neutral. It was a comprehensive performance and display by Arsenal, and there was something in Arsenal, and against Wolves, there was a nervousness. I didn't see that yesterday. That team went out there and they went to go and pump Tottenham, and they did. They went to get the job done one way or another. They were getting served up. Simple.
On that, the fact or fiction question connected to this is fact or fiction. Arsenal didn't send a message to Manchester City. Beating Spurs is routine and changes nothing in the title race. That stems from what Simon Jordan. That's what Simon Jordan and a lot of pundits and journalists have sort of said today. That it isn't really anything new.
Okay, let me answer that, Terry, right? So the reason why that's fiction, right? Man City, listen, again, no disrespect. I understand about Man City. I've watched them, I watch football, and you know, they're a good side, okay, and they've done it. They've been there and done it. But this Manchester City side went to Tottenham. They were 2-0 up at half-time and they were coasting. The bookies had paid out. It was done and dusted. It should have been 3 or 4. And you would have expected Manchester City to come out in the second half and absolutely annihilate Tottenham. But no, they didn't. At the end of the game, Rodri's making excuses. He should have been sent off twice. They want to talk about bottlers. They bottled that lead and let Tottenham, even Tottenham fans. There were Tottenham fans that wanted, you know, Tottenham to throw that game, obviously, because they don't want to, you know, what Tottenham fan wants Arsenal to win the Premier League. That was a catastrophic bottling from Manchester City, and no one really talks about that. They went there. It was a 2-2. Arsenal went there yesterday and absolutely thrashed them. They got the job done. And after the Wolves game, there were even Arsenal fans. And listen, I've had them come in for me all week after the Wolves. Mate, my inbox, my Instagram, your toxic positivity. That's why we're never going to win anything because of fans like you. And all this, and all that sort of stuff. But then we went and put a performance in yesterday, got the job done, and things changed. There were a lot of Arsenal fans. I was on the Invincibles podcast on AFTV, Lee Judges. And Chris Hudson, they thought it was going to be 1-1. They thought it was going to be a really tough game. And I said 3-0. I wanted to say 4, but I didn't, just because, you're deluded, you're more deluded than Ty, and all that. You know that one. And it's like, listen, it ain't my first game of football that I've watched. I've watched Arsenal this season. I'm not just gassing them up because I'm like, oh yeah, like toxic positivity. I can see how good they are, and on their day, they can do it. They can beat anyone. We put Bayern Munich to the sword comprehensively. Probably the best team in Europe.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know about you guys. I found it, a bit weird this weekend. And what I hated about it is because I've got to call it out, but I was praising the commentary, praising the punditry on Saturday. I didn't like City winning, but you're right. Their celebrations after the game were exactly what you want to see. You could tell they fancy it. You could tell they think they can win it. They're hunting Arsenal down. All these things are true. Arsenal celebrate in the same way. And Gary Neville actually had the audacity after a weldy in a derby to say, stop over celebrating. Get back to the halfway line and concentrate. And the irony was, when they scored the first goal, Declan Rice is saying, everyone calm down. Right, let's not over-celebrate. We might make a mistake. And made a mistake. Sutton's going in after the game. TalkSport are going in after the game. And I'll be honest with you, I sit there and I'm thinking to myself, that for me as a football fan, that's why I have my podcast, my personal podcast, Killing the Game. It takes the life and soul out of it. What do you mean Arsenal can't celebrate, but City can? What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
It's an North London derby, for Christ's sake. We're 16th. If we'd have won yesterday to go up to 15th, I'd still be celebrating because it's a North London derby. Like, theoretically, the game, in the grand scheme of things, means the same amount for both teams because we are in a relegation dogfight and they're in a title race. It's relative to which team you're supporting, but saying you can't celebrate on the celebration, please. Man City fans, Guardiola and the City staff were celebrating that Newcastle result because they know how big of a game that was. Like, now they've got an easier run where they play like Leeds, Forest and West Ham, but it's just, it almost just seems like it's one rule for one and one for another.
And you know what? You're spot on, Henry, right? There's some sort of narrative, right? So, like I said, City draw with Tottenham, and it's, nothing's said. Arsenal go and smoke Tottenham. Say, that was a Tottenham Hotspur. Go and smoke them. When it's drew 2-2 away to Wolves, that's it, you've bottled it. That's it, it's all over. But then we go and everyone's, you ain't going to beat Tottenham. Tottenham are going to beat you. And do you know what? Tottenham fans actually fancied that. That's the truth.
I fancied something out of it.
Yeah, and they did. And then when you go there and absolutely destroy them, everyone's like, but it's Tottenham. They're getting relegated. No. That's nothing. And it's like, and what's that about?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know. When Liverpool last year were battering everyone between that period of like October and December, the narrative was you haven't played anyone. And then they beat City and Real Madrid in the space of a week. And the narrative was, but this isn't the City of recent years, or this isn't the strongest Real Madrid team. It's like when you're at the top, you get judged a lot more. I mean, I don't know. I've only seen us in one title race in my life, but when you're at the top, it just seems to be.
And you came third, didn't you? You came third, the 2-horse race.
And we finished second to Chelsea the year Conte won it. I think they won.
I love that. I love what my dad. I know I said it earlier. My dad messaged me. Why are our fans singing second again? We've been second once since 1967.
And do you know what? I've had it with Arsenal fans, right? So let's say last season, for example, when we went beat Real Madrid, right? But on both legs in the Champions League. There are Arsenal fans who are like, oh, yeah, well, we should. Oh, we haven't won anything. When you're enjoying and celebrating a win, there's something about fan culture. Listen, don't get me wrong. As an Arsenal fan, and I'll put it out, I want to win things. I've watched Arsenal do doubles. I've watched Arsenal go to Anfield and win the league, win the last second. I've watched us do the League and Cup double. I've watched the Invincibles. I love it. And there is nothing more and what is necessary for this Arsenal team to go and win silverware this season. But sometimes it's like you can't enjoy celebrating a result because people turn around, they're like, oh, well, it's not done. What's the point in watching football?
But that's just it.
Let's all just not watch it. We'll wait till the end of the season until it's all done.
I agree. What I agree with, and Quest says something here that makes a lot of sense, is everything else in life you have to earn. Just let Arsenal get over the line, then you can talk all the smack you want. Look, I think when it comes, I agree and I disagree. I think when it comes to talking about how good this Arsenal team is overall, and where you kind of place them in the pantheons of champions. With one, you've got to be champions to even go into that conversation. Because if you come second 5, 6, 7, 8 years on the row, you're not in that pantheon. There's also that element of, listen, based on your logic, Quest, and I know you don't do this, that means no one else can talk smack because no one else has won the league this year yet. Like, where do we draw the line on that? That means there's zero banter, and I don't quite agree. Exactly. But the bit that I push back on, and I know Quest isn't saying this, it's football fans should be allowed to celebrate, because the logic of you ain't won the Prem for years, so therefore you can't celebrate, then why would we ever allow Brighton to celebrate a goal, let alone a win? Like, there comes a point where I feel like celebrate whatever you want. I think a bit of banter, I look at it this way. I look at the banter element. There's 20% of what you say and do in football should be banter. You know, I'm only throwing it out as a bit of an arbitrary number. But I do agree, where as a United fan, I was annoyed this year, is that I'm seeing Arsenal fans say, oh, we're as good as the 2008 United team. Well, until you win that Prem and Champions League double, the debate doesn't even begin. So anyone compares a team to one of my teams, you've got to at least won what we've won before you can turn around and say you're as good as them. And I think that's where I would push back on those things there. But look, I think what Simon Jordan, these guys said earlier on today about it means nothing winning that game. That's where I disagree, because if you'd have lost, it would have meant something. So how can winning it mean nothing if losing it meant everything? I don't know.
Speaking of scams, and I do apologise to anyone Nigerian that took that the wrong way. It's not what I meant at all in the slightest. That's what Simon Jordan does. He likes to scam people with a lot of his things to get the views for TalkSport. So is what it is. I mean, he'll say whatever it is to sort of make sure that it can relinquish something, because yes, Spurs have been poor, but I mean, it's still a massive game, isn't it?
Do you know what? The thing is, I'll say on that one thing. If I'm honest with you, like, I really rate Simon Jordan. He is an absolutely phenomenal. His vocabulary and his way of describing a story and his, points. I don't personally think that he should lower himself to saying you shouldn't celebrate a result like that. One, he's not an Arsenal fan, and he's not a Tottenham fan. So obviously he's not going to understand that derby in its entirety. But he is a football fan, and he's a very knowledgeable guy. So he should understand and have a level of understanding of the magnitude of that game.
See, to me, he feels like he uses those big words to try and put people down and put down situations. I don't think he is somebody. He uses them to try and dress it up and make some ridiculous points. And I think one thing I do appreciate is the fact that he's quite straightforward. I mean, obviously watching the Trezor Wilder stuff, I thought he handled that very well, because I'd absolutely shit myself if it's kind of a case of, like there's some things I look at and I'm like, son, why have you said that? Like, you know what you're doing. There are people within our industry as well who use big words and just try and think it makes them look better. But it's very much a case of, like, I think the way that he's putting down that derby,
I think it's untrue. It's untrue and it's unjust. And I think, if I'm honest with you, he's got a lot more in his locker to resort to that. And where he would lack credibility, which is, if I'm honest with you, hard to say, because of his ability to tell a story and to communicate with a wide audience on a number of levels. I think that lets him, that you don't need to say that. I think any football fan knows the magnitude of that game. And as a neutral watching that game yesterday, listen, if I didn't support Arsenal or Tottenham and I turned on Super Sunday yesterday and watched that game, I would be entertained from start to finish.
Do you think it's the biggest derby in the country?
It is. It's up there in, I don't know, I'll say the worldwide. It's every time I watch that game, listen, I get it, and people say, oh yeah, obviously we get the result. But that derby is, take my Arsenal, bias away from it. It's a phenomenal game. It's got everything. It always does. It always delivers.
I think it's more entertaining than the Manchester or the Merseyside.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love those games as well. The Manchester derby, the Merseyside derby. These derbies are. But
and the biggest derby, Man United Liverpool. It's the biggest one.
No, but that's not a derby. Apparently, that's the conversation I was having the other day. It's not a derby. So there's so many.
There's so area that one.
Do you know what it is? Do you know what people do the semantics of that? Because if they have to include it, they know it goes to number one. So it's a way of going, it's a great game. It's maybe the biggest game, but it isn't a derby. So therefore, this one is.
Is it more of a rivalry though? Like
this is the thing, right? This is the point I was trying to make when I wasn't being yelled at in that midnight clip. Right, I think there are so many different ways you can look at derbies. Yeah, you can look at derbies so many different ways, where it's not just geographical. Because by that logic, when people talk about, you speak to a Crystal Palace or a Brighton fan, their derbies are, well, it's not a derby, but to them it is. Do you know what I mean? Or even if you want to be closer in terms of cities, Portsmouth and Southampton, that is a derby. Oh, but no, apparently according to certain people's biographies, it can't.
It has to be the same city. Yeah. But that
Palace and Brighton shouldn't really be a derby, then, should it?
But it is a derby because it's again, it's a colloquial sense. I mean, theirs all started something to do with something a manager did. The point is, I don't think anyone who isn't a Man United fan or a Liverpool fan can tell us it isn't a derby, because we know how we feel. It's one of those things. It's like me saying to Marty, you can't have Henry as your biggest legend of your club. What the fuck's it got to do with me as a Man United fan? Like, it ain't really anything to do with me. Like, that's for Arsenal fans to crown. Who Spurs have on top? I mean, it's only one or two people, to be fair. Oh, it's not a big debate. You'll be over in 10 minutes. Kane or Greaves. There you go. Fucking job done. Really easy for you lot. But,
so the question I'd ask you, obviously, Lou, I can ask you. I was going to say I'll ask you, Terry, and Lou, but obviously we know that Terry's a gooner, so I can't ask him. I can't ask him the question. So listen, yesterday you watched that game. Honestly, is that a game that you want to watch? And when you watched that game yesterday, was it a great game of football?
Yes, I think that's the thing with like, I'll be honest, like I watch Chelsea games and I watch the odd game, but I've got so many other things going on. It's like I'll usually watch some highlights, I do some more reading, I'll do whatever I can. But it's like, yes, I will always watch the North London derby because I always know something is going to happen. Like it's like for me, in terms of England, yes, I think it is the biggest derby right now. That's because Liverpool and Everton is not. I don't think it's as big as it can be. It's always exciting, but is it as exciting as the North London derby? Well, no, not really over the past 10 years because nothing's really ridden on it in comparison to that game. The North London derby always had something riding on it. Now it's more bragging rights. I feel, look, if Spurs carry on the way they are, it's going to go the same way as Liverpool versus Everton, where you just know who's going to win it every season, but there'll be like some magic moments.
I think look, even that aside, right? You look at that game yesterday; it's got 5 goals in it, contentious decisions, tackles flying in left, right, and centre. It's electric, it's live, it's on top. It
gives you that extra element as well when
of football.
The whole Eze, we were that close to signing him. And then he signed
I agree. I think they're all great in it. I look forward to all of them. What we actually need is for Everton to become a better team, and it will make that derby that little bit better. As an example, like I don't know about you lot, I was very excited for the Time Weird derby. And again, Time Weird derby is a derby, but Newcastle and Sunderland are not the same city.
Okay,
So yeah,
so you say that you want Everton to be a better team. Would you say that Everton are a better team than Tottenham?
Yes.
Right, there you go. Okay, so they're a better team. That derby, this is my point. It's not because, listen, I no disrespect to Tottenham, and you know what? And I'll be honest with you, like, I actually feel for, in a mad, twisted, weird kind of way, I actually feel for Tottenham and Tottenham fans because of how bad they are right now. And listen, it was great, and, you know, but Tottenham are, at the moment, in a really bad place, and they're terrible. But there's something magical about that derby, which, even how bad Tottenham are and how great Arsenal are, there's just something in like that game of, obviously the result, I get it, is in Arsenal's favour, but there was something about it that just had
I understand. On your thing, like if someone said to me now, what's the one team in the whole world, Terry, you wouldn't want to see go bankrupt and go out of business, it would be Liverpool. I feel if Liverpool disappeared, something about Man United disappears too, and there's a yin and a yang thing there. A few super chats before the end. It says bad-mouthing Arsenal brings in more viewers than talking about City. It's that simple. This is true. This is very true. Teams, please donate a point a week to keep the relegation from the Spurs Foundation. Let's come together and save our weekly, your seasonally 6 points, you mean, starting with Liverpool. And Arsenal play the majority of their games with 3 at the back with 2 fullbacks floating. It's not about formation. It's about application and adaptation, is what Glock says here. Look, I want to thank everyone who's tuned into the show. This is going to redirect you to Hassam's watch-alongs. Go and support my brother over there, please, before he goes live. Gents, a pleasure to sit here and speak football with you. Until next time, people, I want to say thank you. Take care. Goodbye. God bless. And we're going to see you all again very, very soon. Peace.